everybody. Well, good morning and welcome to our time together today, and look forward to visiting with you like I do every couple of weeks. Been talking a little bit with Cassidy about just kind of where we're headed and what we want to talk about. And we're gonna make our way into talking about teamwork. And a little over a year ago, I visited with your sales leadership team about great teams. And so we're going to revisit that today because there are a number of you that were not part of that meeting. And so you didn't get to see this information about great teams. And then those of you who did see it, it'll be a good reminder for you. As you can imagine, I've been through this material a number of times, right? And it was interesting to me as I was going back through it, getting ready for today, about how it speaks to me, and how, even though I've presented this a lot, the principles of what we'll be talking about, I'm reminded of them as I go back through it. And so hopefully those of you who have seen it, I'm going to encourage you, stay plugged in, stay connected as we go through this, because even if you saw it last December and a little bit of it in January, I think you're going to be reminded of a number of things I think are going to be very helpful to you. So again, we're going to look today at great teams. And what I want to propose to you and suggest is that great teams are made up of great leaders that attract great people, and we grow together to really become great teams that actually accomplish more than we might have ever dreamt possible, right? And so we're going to look at how does that happen, right? So great teams have big goals, right? They have leaders that embrace goal setting. We're going to get into each of these in a lot of detail as we go through here, but I just want to give you a quick overview of them. So you can think of about, I've done it in an acrostic format. So think about great teams. Well, great teams have big goals. Great teams have leaders who are responsible, team people who are responsible, who encourage, who are authentic, and who are thankful. That's the type of people, the characteristics of team leaders who really lead great teams. They have big goals, they're responsible, they encourage, they're authentic, and they're thankful. Now, what do we do as teams to actually become great teams? Well, as teams, what we got to do as a collective body that becomes a team is we talk, we communicate, we execute, we're accountable, we measure, and we succeed. We don't succeed on accident. We talked about this. We succeed on purpose. So that's what we're going to look at today. Great teams are made up of people, leaders, and just the people who make up the team. We have big goals. We're responsible. We're encouragers. We're authentic. We're thankful. We talk. We execute. We're accountable. We measure. And what we do then is we succeed. So let's talk about great teams a little bit. I put together some examples of great teams. Now, some of these are going to date you a little bit or date me, but you're going to see them. And why are we talking about great teams? One of the things Steve Jobs is quoted as saying, look, y'all, great things in business, they're never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. Nothing great happens by one individual. There are teams that are working with them to actually accomplish that which becomes great, that which becomes inspirational, that which disrupts industries and creates brand new industries. So great things in business, they're not done by one person, they're done by a team. All right, so great teams. Here's one for you. Now, y'all know I'm a Baylor guy, right? And don't get me talking about my men's basketball team. All right, I don't know if any of y'all saw that Baylor UT game last night, but my goodness, I taped it, watched it late last night. Oh, okay, I see that UT sign. Well, hey, listen,
that was a tough one. That was a tough one, Mark.
It was a tough one. That Aaron Jones kid, he can flat out play now.
I get to ride the middle though, because I'm a Longhorn, but I pay for Baylor with my kids. So I win either way, basically.
There you go. I get it. Well, anyway, my Baylor Bears, man, they're smoking right now. and we're having a good time. But this team right here, this is from 2011-2012 season. This is the Baylor women's team, and they won the national championship, and they did something for the first time, never been done in collegiate basketball by men or women. They went 40-0. They lost no games the entire season. Now, the women's team at Connecticut, they've done that since 2011-2012, but at that time, this was the first team ever, collegiate basketball, to go 40-0. Great team led by a great coach, right? All right, now, here's another one for you. Now, this is the authentic or the initial dream team, right? 1992. This is the team that went to the Olympics in 1992, and they destroyed everybody. I don't mean they just beat them. They destroyed them. Their average margin of victory was 44.8 points. That's the average margin of victory. And here you have, up in the upper left, you got Patrick Ewing, then Christian Laettner, and then Magic, and then David Robinson across the top, and then Karl Malone and Chris Mullen, and then there's a young Charles Barkley. Some of y'all see Charles on TNT, etc. Well, that's a young Charles Barkley. The coach was Chuck Daly. Then there's Michael, Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen, John Stockton, and Clyde the Glide Drexler. And that team right there, y'all, you know what? All but one of them are in the Basketball Hall of Fame right now, NBA Hall of Fame. All but one of them are in the NBA Hall of Fame. And what they did is they took their individual excellence and they brought it together and they figured out how to work as a team. And they had a margin of victory of 44.8 points in the 1992 Olympics. That is a great team. All right. Now, here's another one for you. This is the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra. They were founded in the mid-1800s, and they have over more than 100 years. They have grown and continued to develop, and obviously new people coming in, people of excellence, and they set the international standard for musicality and instrumentation. And in November of 2019, they won a Grammy Award for excellence as a team, the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra. Now, I got a question for you. Okay, so, and you can unmute and answer. All right, so here we go. 3 bands. All right, you ready? The Eagles, the Beatles, and Led Zeppelin. Who sold the most albums? Eagles, Beatles, Eagles. Okay. Anybody else want to? Anybody else?
Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin. Okay.
I'm going for the Beatles.
Okay.
Beatles.
All right. So here it was in reverse order. 101 million albums. The Eagles. 112 million albums. Led Zeppelin. The Beatles, 178 million albums.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Beatles. So great teams, right? Great teams. And then here's one for you. You may not have heard of these guys. These guys, this is back in the 1930s. And in the 1930s, rowing had the same kind of popularity as basketball, football today. But back then, rowing had that same kind of popularity. And these are young men from the Northwest. They came from homes in which their parents were laborers. They worked in mills. They were lumberjacks. They were blacksmiths. They were farmers. They come from this laboring kind of families, and they get to the University of Washington, and they decide individually that, you know what, we're going to try out for the rowing team. And these young men, they began to row together as a team. And what happened as they began to row together as a team and taking each of their individual personalities and learning how to mesh them together and to become a team, what happened is they began to beat the upperclassmen at the University of Washington. And that's what they looked like, right? And as they began to beat the upperclassmen at the University of Washington, They were in other events, and then they started beating the rowing teams from Princeton and Harvard and Yale and these elite programs. And here you got all these guys, they make up this amazing team. And in 1936, they win so much in the United States that they qualify to participate in the 1936 Olympics. Now, some of y'all may remember from history, your history classes, that in 1936, the Olympics were in Berlin, Germany. Adolf Hitler was in power, and Adolf Hitler was dead set on proving the superiority of the Aryan race in the 1936 Olympics. And you know he failed miserably, right? Y'all, you may remember reading or learning about Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens, black athlete, track star, destroyed everybody on the track in 1936 at those Olympics. And this team, this group of young men, they show up at the 1936 Olympics and they start rowing, and they're in the top there, and they edge out the German team, which is down here in the bottom part of the screen, and they win the gold medal in the 1936 Olympic Games. This amazing team of young men who come together and learn how to be a team. It's all written about in this book called The Boys in the Boat. And you can read a fascinating read about this group of individuals that come together, and they're led by this coach, and they work together and they learn how to achieve something that they probably never dreamt possible, because they learned how to be a team. Nothing in business, nothing in sports, nothing in music happens of immense value and great accomplishment individually. It always takes a team. Simon Sinek, we've talked about this book, Start With Why. This paragraph right here is one of my favorite paragraphs in the entire book. It just kind of jumped off the page at me. One of the few times, or I've read the book a number of times, but one of the, like, second or third time I read the book, just jumped off the page. The ones, meaning the organizations, the teams that achieve more, the ones that get more out of fewer people, fewer resources, the ones with an outsized amount of influence, however, build products and companies and even recruit people that all fit based on the original intention. Now, somebody unmute. What phrase jumps off the page at you? No right or wrong answer. I'm just curious. Unmute. Come on. What jumps off the page at you?
Why?
Why? Okay, good. Yes. What else? What jumps off the page at you?
Start.
Start. The way they start. Okay. All right. Good. Somebody else? Come on, y'all. Shy salespeople have skinny kids. Come on, answer.
I would say the ones with an outside.
Inspired. What? What else?
The ones with an outsized amount of influence, meaning that they're empowered.
Hey, somebody remembers my talk. I think that's you, Andy. Somebody remembers my talk. That's what got me, right?
No.
The ones with an outsized amount of influence. Y'all, we don't exist to have a small amount of influence. In our families, with our friends, in organizations that we're involved in, at work, Multiview does not exist to have a small amount of influence. Y'all, we don't get to choose if we're going to influence. We will all influence. The only question is, what kind of influence will we be? Will we be a positive influence or a negative influence? Will we have a big, powerful influence, or will we have a minuscule influence? None of us exist to have a minuscule level of influence. And we can't achieve that which we've been created and made to achieve if we don't work together as a team. The ones that achieve an outsized amount of influence We recruit and we find people that are based on the original intention. Yes, the only way we're going to do that is to understand the why. So why does Multiview exist? Do all of you know that? What's the mission of Multiview? What's your mission? Y'all, we can get really sidetracked when we lose sight of that. It all begins with why. It all begins with the original intention, and we're focused on that, and we're locked in on it, and we're committed to it, and we communicate, and we work together as a team. What happens is what might have been a little bit of influence turns out to be this big, massive amount of influence. That's what great teams do. That's what we're after. So y'all, great teams, we build them not on accident. We build them on purpose. And we end up having massive amounts of influence. Around the world, maybe, in our country, in our company, in our families. How many of you want to have positive, great influence on your kids? We do, right? Okay. So we got to lock in on the why and be intentional. All right. Now, let's talk about, so there's some example of great teams and having major, big influence. All right. Remember, I talked to you, I've invited you this year in 2021 to join me on this journey to impact lives. Yes, we want to impact the lives of our clients. Absolutely. We want to impact the lives of our coworkers. Yes, we want to impact the lives of our family. Yes. Right? And that's influence, have an outsized amount of influence. Okay? So what do leaders do? And what do we do even as individuals to begin to move toward this outsized amount of influence? Well, one thing is we got to have goals. And they got to be big goals. And here's what's important. And remember, we talked about this. Goals are informed by our priorities. We can have some major goals. We can have some big goals. But in reality, if it's not a priority for us, it's nothing more than just a dream. It's nothing more than just some wish. It's nothing more than an interest. You know what an interest is? An interest is something that we only do when it's convenient. Goals within our priorities are something that we pursue and we run after intentionally, and we keep running after them regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the hurdles, because they're priorities. Now, y'all have seen this before. These are mine, right? These are faith, family, fitness, finance. Those are ours. And Pam and I actually, we've added a fifth one. And I think it's a big result of COVID and it's friends, right? The lack of community. Okay, so let me phrase it like this. Prior to COVID, we took friends for granted. We took community with friends for granted. Shame on us. We've learned. So now we've added friends to this. Faith, family, fitness, finances. Friends, we got to have goals informed by your priorities. So what are your priorities? Have you written them down? I've asked you to do that, right? In setting, we've been talking about execution with excellence, right? And execution on purpose, right? And that when we execute on purpose with excellence, we create breakthrough results. We achieve goals. And if they're within our priorities, then we end up accomplishing that which is most important to us. So what are your priorities? If you haven't written those down, that's an important thing to get done quickly. Please write those down. All right. And then you set goals. Now listen to me, y'all. If your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough. They're not. If you can accomplish your goals with the skills that you have right now, they're not big enough. Our goals and our priorities should scare us a little bit. They should expect more out of us than who we are. They should expect that we can't really accomplish them on our own. It's going to require community. It's going to require teamwork. It's going to require that we learn in order to accomplish those goals. If they don't scare you, they're not big enough. So what are the goals that you have for yourself, those 12-week goals? Remember those, right? 12-week goals that collectively we end up hitting our annual goal. What are the goals? But listen, if you know exactly how you're going to get there and you can get there and it doesn't really cause you much concern, it's not big enough. Reset them, because it should demand more of us than who we are today. So we set big goals. That's a responsibility of leaders, and it's a responsibility of us as individuals to set big goals within our areas of priority. All right. And then what do great leaders do that lead great teams? They take responsibility. They're responsible people. Maxwell says the ability to meet obligations, the act of being accountable. It's a duty of trust. It's the ability to make and keep commitments. That's what responsibility is, right? To meet the obligations, to hold ourselves accountable, to make and keep commitments. Now, y'all, there's 4 types of people when it comes to responsibility. All right. And here we go. Now, some of this, y'all, are you ready? Because I may step on some toes here. All right. Some of us are dropouts when it comes to responsibility. We give up and we fail to take responsibility. Right. And y'all, that's human nature. We don't have to be taught that. Some of y'all may remember this story. My youngest son, Taylor, he was 3 years old. We had just got him potty trained, and it's early one morning, and he's all dressed to go with us. And I see him jump up and run as fast as he can to the bathroom. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is not good, right? And so I followed him in there, and I came around the corner, and here's Taylor. He comes walking out like this, waddling out. And he looks up at me and he says, "Dad, somebody just wet in my pants." Now, y'all, I almost fell out, right? It was hard to keep a straight face, right, young man? Nobody wet in your pants. You wet in your pants. You got to take responsibility. You know, it was all I could do. But here's the thing. That's human nature. It's easy to point the finger someplace else. It's not my fault. It's not my fault that my sales numbers aren't there. I didn't get enough leads. They weren't quality leads. Y'all, it's easy to be a dropout and fail to take responsibility. So some of us, we're in that boat, and the first thing to get out of it is you got to admit it, right? So 4 types of people drop. Some of us are cop-outs, right? We make excuses why we're not responsible. Like I just alluded, not my fault, right? It's this or it's that. It's COVID or it's whatever, right? We find all kinds of ways to make excuses and not take responsibility. Approach it from more of a victim top standpoint. So, and then there are holdouts. We wait too long to take responsibility. Like if we're on a team and we know it's our fault, we don't want to admit it, right? We're going to be quiet long enough and maybe somebody else will admit it, because I certainly don't want to fess up to it. And then we got the all outs. Now, y'all, that's where we all need to be right there. That's the coach. That's like Krzyzewski at Duke, right? When they're bad, it's his fault. When they're good, it's the teams. It's the teams, they get credit, right? It's the great coaches in sports and music and business, the CEOs, to say, you know what, when it's going well, my team's a great team. When it's not going well, it's my fault. The speed of the team is determined by the speed of the leader, right? That's true, but we don't always like to admit that. I know I don't. But yet, it's our responsibility. So, y'all, great teams are led by great leaders and great people. And remember, all of you are leaders. All of you are leading a team. It may not be at work so much. You might be more of an individual producer at work, but you're leading your family. You're leading a committee at a nonprofit you're a part of. You're leading a committee at a church you're a part of. You're leading a committee in some organization. You're leaders all somewhere. So we set big goals and we're responsible, right? All right, now what else? Great leaders encourage. Oh man, I love this word. Look at this now. Now this may hit some of us right here. Successful people build each other up. They motivate, inspire, and push each other. Unsuccessful people just hate, blame, and complain. Wow. Wow. That's sometimes painful to see, right? It's true. Successful people build each other up. We motivate, inspire, encourage. Look at this. I love this picture. Look at this young lady encouraging her friend, right? Look at that. As a coach, that's what it's all about right there. As a parent, that's what it's all about. We're in their corner. We're watching for them to do something good. We're encouraging them. We're infusing their heart with courage to keep going. You can do this. I love that image because here's what encourage says. It means we fill people with courage. We infuse them with courage. We instill energy and courage and vigor into people who need it. We lift despondency by an infusion of fresh courage and zeal. We give them heart. How much have we had to do that this year, 2020, with COVID? Maybe we had to do it for ourselves. Maybe we had to do it for other people. There are people right now, man, they were starting to get out of the fear zone, right? And then the COVID spikes again. And deaths go up. And it's gotten real personal for us, right? We started having people in our own family get it. We hadn't had that before this second wave. And some of us, man, we can get into this despondency. We get out into worry and fear. As leaders, we got to get above that. We got to give encouragement because people need it. We embolden them. We give them courage to overcome that which is holding them back. Maybe it's a timidity. Maybe it's reluctance. Maybe it's fear, right? Whatever it is, it's holding people back from achieving what they're really capable of achieving. That's what we're designed to do for them, is to encourage them, to infuse them with courage, not discourage. This is to cut. We don't want to cut the courage out of their heart. We want to instill courage in their heart. We got to be encouragers, not basement dwellers. Y'all know people that dwell in the basement and they want to drag you down with them. And you get an email from them, you don't even want to open it. You get a phone call, you don't even answer it. You get a text, you don't even open it. Why? Because they're basement dwellers. They're always pulling us down. Don't be that to anybody else, will you? Let's commit to be balcony people. Let's lift people up. Maxwell says, put a 10 on their forehead. See them for who they can become. Florence Littauer, she wrote this book called Silver Boxes. And she used to take these little silver boxes, wrap them up, little bitty silver boxes, and she put them all over her house. Because she wanted to remind herself that what she said, the words she used, could either drag her kids down or she could propel them forward. Words that we use, we're going to talk about words in a little bit, they can be gifts. They're like silver boxes that encourage people, that draw, that bring them up out of the pit and call them into who they can be. That's what we as leaders, that's what we're designed to do. It's a responsibility we have. See them for who they can. Be in the balcony, encouraging them, picking them up, lifting them up, dusting them off, setting them on a new track. But let's certainly don't be basement dwellers. Okay, so these great leaders who build great teams, We have big goals and we encourage that. We're responsible. We encourage. And you know what else? They're authentic. Great leaders are authentic. Todd Bolsinger writes this book, Canoeing the Mountains. It's about how do you lead a team into uncharted territory? Oh my goodness. Have we not been in uncharted territory? Wow. Huh? How do you lead your team into uncharted territory? Well, he says there's three things. Number one, you have to have technical competence on the map, which means that in your work and what you're comfortable and what you know to do, you're good at it. Technical competence. You're good at what you're designed to do, right? You guys are good in the work that you do at Multiview. You're good. You have technical competence. The second thing is you have relational congruence. That means relationally, you build healthy relationships because you're the same person at work that you are at home. You're the same person at home you are at work. You're not one person someplace and a different person somewhere else. It's called being authentic. It's called being real. No matter who's watching. We can all strive to grow in that area, right? But what it does when we're like that is it builds relational congruence. It builds healthy relationships. And then the third thing he says is you have to have the capacity to adapt, the capacity to change. Now you know what, y'all? Technical competence, relational congruence, adaptive capacity. Who's that sound like? I think it sounds like you. That's what I think. I think it sounds like you. Now, can we get better in every area? Absolutely. But think about 2020. Was that not uncharted territory? Oh my goodness. Right? Uncharted territory. And what do you guys do as a team? You increase your bookings by 2% over the adjusted forecast. You have more bookings in 2020 than you did in 2019. Your gap revenue was up, what, 2%, I think, over 2019? Your profits were up 19% over 2019 in uncharted territory. Why? Because you have technical competence. You have leaders who are technically competent. You have relational congruence. Does everybody just love each other? No, not all the time, but you have this congruence where you work together relationally and you adapted, you changed. You went from all working together in an office to working individually, and you figured out how to do it, and you had leadership to help you do it, and your profits go up 19%. You have the biggest day ever in sales. You have the highest average sale per day as a company and as individuals in the history of Multiview in 2020 in uncharted territory. That does not happen without leadership who are technically competent, who have relational congruence, and who adapt, who have the capacity to accept change and figure out we're fearful, but we're going to learn something, we're going to grow, and we're going to be better on the other side than we were going into it. And that's what you guys have done. And guess what? You're going to get the opportunity to keep doing it. That does not stop. We keep doing it. And teams that keep doing it, you know what happens to them? We'll see if the Kansas City Chiefs repeat this year, right? It looks like they may. That is so hard. Because once we get on top, it's hard to stay there because we don't want to do the things that got us on top. We don't want to keep doing it. We got to keep challenging ourselves. So y'all, you have embraced this idea of being accountable, being authentic, and growing, right? Here's what millennials want. They want mentoring. They want to know, hey, listen, hey, here's what's going well, and here's how we can still improve. They're looking for leaders who have gentle spirits. They're respectful, flexible, grounded, right? They're looking for authenticity. That's the number one word they say they're looking for in leaders. They don't care how polished it is. They just want it to be real. They want us to be real, y'all. Our kids want us to be real. They already know. If we think we're fooling them, we're just lying to ourselves. Kids want authentic parents. Didn't you? People on our team want authentic leaders. They want integrity, trust, service to others. That's the kind of leaders. Lead from the front, walk the talk. That's what they're looking for. Y'all, here's authentic people. You know who authentic people are? You know what they do? They tell the truth. They tell the truth. Even when it's hard. Why? Because it's the right thing to do, and it builds trust. And when we build trust, we develop healthy relationships. What if you could describe every relationship you have as being healthy? Oh my goodness. What kind of change would that bring about in our families, in our workplaces, in our country, around the world, right? We had healthy relationships and healthy teams, but it starts with telling the truth. It starts with building trust. It starts with being authentic. Great leaders are authentic. Y'all look, a team is not a group of people who work together. A team is a group of people who trust each other. So they're authentic and they're thankful. My favorite quote, you've seen this multiple times. It's about gratitude, right? It unlocks the fullness of life, turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity, turns a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. It makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. Gratitude, but gratitude, y'all, it's not natural because we're selfish people. And when we're selfish, it's hard to be grateful. What gratitude does for us is it minimizes the selfishness in us. It allows us to be kinder. It allows us to be more humble. It allows us to learn more. It allows us to appreciate other people. It allows us to encourage other people because we have gratitude, not this selfish, woe is me. I need more. We have to remind ourselves that's my dining room. My wife puts words like that up to remind us to be thankful. We just take a look at those pictures and we're reminded how much for which we have to be grateful. Y'all here, I want you to do something. I want you to write down 3 things for which you're grateful. Just jot them down real quick. Write down 3 things for which you're grateful. Please. Write them down, okay? Write down 5 people for whom you're grateful. Just write them down. Who are you grateful for? My wife, my husband, my kids, my boss, my pastor, my college buddy. Write down 5 people for my parents. Who are you grateful for? And then here's the key thing. Write them a note. Don't email them. Don't text them. Write them a note and send it to them. Imagine if you got a note, handwritten note. How would it make you feel? Well, bless somebody else by doing that for them. People for whom you have gratitude. It will make a difference. I was on a conference call with my 2 sons the other day and somebody else, and one of my sons says, you know, one of the things that my dad has done for us is periodically he's written us letters. And yes, I knew I'd written him a letter, but what I didn't know is what he said next. He said, those letters mean a lot to us because we knew that he had to sit down and think about it and write it. And then we were able to read them over and over. Send them a note, y'all. Who are you grateful for? Send them a note. So great leaders set big goals. They're responsible, they encourage, they're authentic, they're thankful, and then great leaders who have these characteristics, right? What happens is as we model them, other people in our team start to have those same characteristics and they start to grow within the team. And so what do teams do to become great and to accomplish more than what might be expected or thought of, or to to smash records in 2020 compared to what do? Well, they talk, right? They communicate. Y'all, look at this. This used to be hopefully not as true as before, but this boardroom, what if, and I know it sounds kooky, we communicated with our employees. Y'all, look, great teams talk often. They talk clearly and they talk thoughtfully. Often, clearly, and thoughtfully. Y'all, communication, we've talked about this, leaders, the leadership quality of communication, to communicate, right? And to listen. Communication is not just about talking, it's also about listening. But we got to talk often. I told you a story when Pam and I first got married. In fact, just this last Sunday, our church is starting this podcast called Married Life. And the topic is how to build healthy marriages. And they asked if they could interview Pam and me. And so Pam and I interviewed with the minister, one of the ministers of our church, who's coordinating this. And we spent about a couple hours just talking about how to build healthy marriages. And they're going to release some podcasts on that. But in that, Pam told the story about when we first got married, and we'd get home at the end of the day, and I would ask her how her day was, and she thought I really wanted to know. And she would tell me from start to finish. And then she'd ask me how my day was, and I would say, fine. Y'all, that didn't work very well. We got to learn how to communicate often, clearly. We got to learn to listen, right? Y'all, people need to be heard. We talked about this. We got to listen, because when we listen, we tell people you're important. You're more important than what I got going right now. You mean something to me. So when our team members need to talk, we need to listen. When our kids want to talk, we need to listen. When our spouse wants to talk, we need to listen. We need to put the phone down. Got to talk often, clearly, and thoughtfully. How many relationships they've invested years to build this healthy relationship, and then one of us says something stupid and ugly and mean and destroy the relationship? Great teams talk often, clearly, thoughtfully. Words have power, y'all. They make a difference, not just the words, but the way the words are said. You know that in your sales presentation. Words have power. It's not just what you're saying, it's how you're saying it that connects with that prospect, that connects with that client, and you close the deal. Y'all, there's this book called The Old School Advantage, and he writes about these wisdom words. Take a picture of this, okay? These are wisdom words that when you incorporate these words into your speech, people attribute the quality of wisdom to you. You know, Andy, the simple truth is we need a common sense approach to achieve extraordinary results for your company, because nothing is more important than what you just told me earlier about your company. And, you know, if I knew the mission of the company, right, or what they're after, their why, I would connect all that. Y'all, these are important words. They attribute wisdom to you. So take a picture of that. Learn how to start using those words. Another set of words are these. These attribute, there's a sense of power about you. There's a sense of authority. You speak with some authority when you use these kind of words. People attribute it to you, right? And there you see, you know, look, my commitment is to give you an authentic presentation. We're going to take a bold approach. I don't want you to have any surprises. I don't want there to be any worries about it. We're going to take this bold approach, and we're going to create breakthrough results. Y'all, learn how to use these words. Learn to use words where people start attributing wisdom and authority to you. You'll close more sales. They'll be for higher dollar volume. You'll build better relationships. So we talk and we execute. Now, we've been talking about execution, right? 12 weeks, 2021, 12 weeks at a time. We spent a couple of weeks talking about the 12-week year. You've seen this quote. It's the greatest market differentiator when we execute. We execute on purpose with excellence, and we achieve breakthrough results. Here are the principles. To execute, we have to be accountable. We have to make a commitment, and we have to be great in the moment, right? Those are the principles of execution. We decide these are the things that have got to be done. I'm going to hold myself accountable to do it. I'm going to commit to it. And even when I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it because I'm going to be great in the moment because I know why I'm doing this. I know my what ifs, right? And these principles form this foundation. It's not just for our own individual success, it's for our corporate success as well. So great teams talk, they execute, and they're accountable, right? Accountability, y'all, is about freedom of choice. Remember, the lowest level of accountability is when your boss has to hold you accountable. Don't force your boss to hold you accountable. Don't force your spouse to hold you accountable. Hold yourself accountable. It's the ultimate ownership. It's a choice. It's a character trait. It's a life stance. It's a willingness to own actions and the results regardless of the circumstances. Your leadership owned the results of 2019. And they worked with you, and y'all worked to collectively to move from, to use your technical competence, the relational congruency, to adapt to the new world, the uncertainty, and you produce results. You took accountability and ownership for it. And here's what we do. We ask ourselves, hey, what more can I do to get the results we're after? What more do I have to get done? How do I change this? What do I do? Joe Dumars, a great basketball player, coach, said on good teams, coaches hold players accountable. On great teams, players hold players accountable. We hold each other accountable. Remember we talked about in the 12-week year about those WOMs, those weekly ownership meetings? That's where players, that's where each of you team members, you help to hold each other accountable. But the absolute highest form is you don't need your teammate to hold you accountable. You don't need your boss to hold you accountable. You hold yourself accountable. To what? To doing those vital few things that we got to do every day, right? Because here's this fork in the road. We keep talking about it. We're either going to choose commitment or we're going to choose compromise. We're going to pay the price of discipline or we pay the price of regret. I'm going to say this enough that hopefully you can repeat this to your family, to your kids. You got teenage kids? They get this. They get this. Young adults, they get this. We pay the price of discipline and we enjoy the results of commitment, or we pay the price of regret because we chose compromise. We sacrifice that which was most important for us. Listen, y'all, don't give up what you want most in life for what you want today. Don't do it. You'll be full of regret. So we choose to be great in the moment. We choose to be accountable. And then you know what we do? We measure. We always have to measure because it's about the results, y'all. Why do you play a game and not keep score? If we're not going to keep score and see who wins, I'm not playing. Results. We work hard to achieve them. Well, if we're not careful, we can get locked in on doing so many things that really don't matter. Let's identify the vital few things, the 20% that's going to drive 80% of the results, right? Let's identify the vital few down there in that little orange box in the lower left that are going to drive 80% of our results. What happens to a lot of us is we get locked in on the trivial many. We get real busy, but we're not productive because we get real busy on the wrong things. That's why you got to have these vital few things, maybe 4 or 5 things. You know, as salespeople, if you do these 4 or 5 things every day, you're going to write business. You're going to grow your client base. You're going to grow your sales volume. You do these things every day. You know, as a spouse, if I do these things every day, I'm going to have a better marriage. If I do these things every day as a parent, I'm going to have a better relationship with my kids. It's not a bunch. It's a few minor things. not minor, they're incredibly important, but there's just a few of them. So we got to identify them so that we can measure. That's how we achieve the results, is because we know we're going to measure it on those vital few things. Every week, did I do those vital few things? You got to measure it, because we succeed what? On purpose, right? Individually, we succeed on purpose. Collectively, we succeed on purpose. And yeah, we do it for ourselves. We do it for our clients. We do it for our family. We succeed on purpose, right? When we execute on purpose with excellence, our lives improve. And so do the lives of everybody around us. We succeed on purpose, y'all. These great teams, that Baylor team, that dream team, the Boys in the Boat, Philharmonic Orchestra, that's their attitude. Whatever it takes. You know, I'm going to do these 3 things, these 4 things, these 5 things every day. Whatever it takes. Because success in my career, I'm going to refuse to fail at that. Success in my marriage, I'm going to refuse to fail at that. Success with my kids, developing healthy, I'm going to refuse to fail at that. Because y'all know there are things in life, right, that are so important, about which we have to refuse to fail. And so we adopt a whatever it takes attitude, because we're going to so that we can succeed on purpose. Y'all, successful people are not more gifted. We've talked about this before. It's not that they got a lot more talent. They work hard and they succeed on purpose. They have great attitude and they have great work ethic, and we succeed on purpose. Mother Teresa said, I can do things you can't. You can do things I can't. But together as a team, we can do great things. We can do amazing things. We can achieve breakthrough results. So great teams, y'all, made up of great individuals of all kinds, right? Diversity is good. Differing backgrounds in which we grew up, differing perspectives, differing just the way we see things. That's good. What happens is we start working together and we get sold out to each other. We build this relational congruence and we get sold out to each other to accomplish this important mission, to have an outsized amount of influence. So, y'all, who you are right now and who you're becoming is going to determine your success. Now, you guys are, in a lot of ways, you're hitting the ball out of the park corporately, right? So there's a lot of great going on, right? Better never stops. Y'all know, some of you have heard me say this. Who you're going to be 5 years from today is determined by 2 things: the books you read and the people you hang around. So what are you reading and who are you hanging around? Those 2 things are going to determine the kind of success you're going to have and the person you're going to be 5 years from today. Better never stops, y'all. It doesn't. Now, some of you see that and you think, dadgummit, I wish you'd quit saying that. I'm tired of just thinking there's more and more and more. Y'all, it's not about that. It's about this desire to impact lives. It's about this desire and this responsibility to know that we've been gifted and we've been equipped and we have this purpose to influence and influence well, to impact lives, and to be an impact, big impact, to have an outsized amount of influence. So embrace better never stops. And let's, in the process of embracing that, let's remember, right, to set big goals, to be responsible, to be encouragers, to be authentic, to be thankful. And let's build teams who talk and execute, right? Execute and are accountable and measure and succeed on purpose. All right? Great teams. Y'all already got a great team, but it can keep getting better, right? All right. Hey, that's all I got today. Thank you for participating and being on. I hope it was helpful for you. And have a great day. Have a great week. Go make it a great week, everybody. Talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Later,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Thanks, man.